Hey there, friends. So it is Christmas Eve, and I am in Colorado visiting my family, and I'm about to head up the hill to a place right close to where they live because it's a gloriously beautiful day, and I want to shoot some video. But I also wanted to talk with you guys just a little bit because this morning I did the final vote count for the top 10 poi spinners of 2018 list, and it's a good opportunity to kind of reflect on the history of that project and what it means to me, and I'm sure what it means to some of you guys too. So I will be the first to confess that I have mixed feelings about the poi top 10 list, which from what I have heard on my many travels, I'm not the only one. When I first started off, I was looking at the work that Luke Burridge was doing with his Top 10 Jugglers video, and I thought that was a really interesting and clever way for the community to kind of honor the people that were contributing to it. You know, at the time, we really didn't have much in the way of ways that people could talk about those that had influenced them in the poi world. I mean, sure, every once in a while in one of the online groups, there'd be the threads that come up of, you know, who are your favorite poi spinners and everything, and there'd be a lot of name checking here and there and everything. But by and large, there was no kind of consistent effort over time to track how those names popped up and why. And so, with all respect to Mr. Burridge, rather than wanting to kind of jump onto the laurels of his project, I thought, why don't we just create our own project? You'll forgive me, but I'm about a mile higher in elevation than I am used to right now, and this morning I went for a long run, and it definitely winded me a bit. I've been in town for less than 24 hours at this point, and getting myself acclimated to altitude, doing some intense cardio right off the bat may not have been the best choice for me. So that first year of the top 10 list, I got so much pushback on it. Like, to be perfectly frank with you guys, I legit thought that everybody in the flow arts world hated me after the project finally came out. I spent months defending it and trying to get it so that people would understand why I was doing what I was doing. But I got so many people, even people I respected, telling me how they thought that it was going to bring out the worst elements in the community, how competitive it felt. And, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I will admit it has brought out a competitive streak in the poi world. But at the same time, it feels also like it's kind of become an institution in itself. And I think also to a certain extent, people just become acclimated to it now. It's a lot more painful to take away something that people are expecting than it is to try and create something new that they maybe have mixed feelings about. Behavioral Econ 101. So as the years started piling on, I stopped looking at it as necessarily like an award, because originally in my head it was almost like I wanted it to feel like the Oscars for poi. But then what I realized is it was also becoming a historical document, because you'd have people that would reach the top of the list one year, and within another 2 years they'd have vote counts so low they wouldn't even pop up in the top 20. It was an interesting way of keeping track of tastes within the poi world and how all those tastes changed over time. And to me still, the biggest use of it is definitely as a historical document. It's definitely looking at the ways that poi changes over time and how rapidly it can change. And I think in that regard, it's kind of an invaluable service. But, and there is a very big but attached to that. So right off the bat, there were some side effects of it that definitely made me uncomfortable, and I'm pretty sure made other people uncomfortable too. One of the first things was discovering that to the people that made the list, it also made them targets in a lot of respects. I heard of a few incidents of people giving people who'd made to the top 10 list like a bunch of grief for it, saying, hey, I bet you think you're really good and everything. And it's just like, it's just kind of a way for the community to express its appreciation. And yet, people in the community really seem to think that getting on that list would go to somebody's head. Yeah, elevation. It is a thing. And the other part of it is that after a while, there were people who did seem to be making a conscious effort to get on the list, either by posting a lot of content or by alerting a lot of people to the fact that the list existed. Which, I mean, in and of itself, that's not a bad thing. But it's also one of those things that, you know, when you are observing a phenomenon and all of a sudden that phenomenon is where you're observing it, it definitely changes the equation a lot. So as we're walking past it here, I want you to check out this building behind me. This is Fairview High School in South Boulder. This is actually where I went to high school. And if it looks rather intimidating and unfriendly and without a lot of windows, that's because it is. So that brings us about to the present day, and to my present misgivings about it, which, like, I had always wanted the list to not be like a reflection of who were the best poi spinners, because I think that that is a completely subjective question and nobody's in a position to answer that. But I thought in the meantime that it would be a good way for people to express gratitude. And I feel like in a lot of respects, it's more become a measure of people who create content, if that makes any kind of sense. See, like, there's a lot of ways to contribute to the community. Videos are just one of them. And granted, videos are one of those things that do tend to have a lot of influence overall, but I think that there's a lot of ways that people can contribute to this community. And I'd like to give you some examples right now, because there are some people that I think are doing absolutely dynamite work. Like, for example, there's a guy named Joe Graff from Philadelphia, who he's actually done a lot of very influential work in the world of tangles with poi, but that's not his primary project right now. His primary project is putting together an initiative to make informed consent a bigger part of fire and flow events all over the country. I talked to him a few weeks ago at Sticks Out in Baltimore about, like, his project and where he saw it going and everything. And I've got to say that it is one of the most inspiring conversations I have had all year. I love the way that Joe has identified a very, very specific problem inside the flow arts world that he wants to have an impact on, and how he's going about doing that. I will also at this moment give props to the other two ladies that I know are helping him, including Gina McGrath and Maddie Scharf, because he is definitely not in this alone. But it was that conversation with Joe that really put me on that path to, oh, wow, like, there's something really cool happening here. Cool, we just got to the top of the hill. I will show you the Flatirons behind me. Those gorgeous mountains that Boulder is known for. So fun fact, my dad's a geologist, so I grew up knowing a lot about the mountains and the landscape here and everything. The Flatirons themselves are these giant bits of sandstone that basically were brought up during the last uplift, which I can't remember exactly when it was, but it's within the past few million years and everything. And they're actually alluvial fans. They're the remains of sediment that was washed out of the ancestral Rockies and basically just became flat plains of sandstone, and then were uplifted themselves and now have become those giant plates of stone that you see behind me here. Pretty cool, yeah? Another person I'd like to give some props to, Jess Foster, which, granted, she's more well-known in the fans community than she is in the poi community, but, like, the no BS is that of all the people I see out there making content, she's the one who cares the most about her audience's experience, probably even more so than I do. The way that she edits and puts together narrative in her videos, and the care that she puts into creating her narratives and everything, it's just some of the best content that I see out there, and I really, really, really wish more people would take that lead. Finally, I also want to give some props to Liz Knights, because not only is she one of the most innovative people that I know in the poi world and doesn't get nearly enough credit for doing it, but she's also the person that hosts the Ladies of Tech Poi compilation every year, which I think is one of the better community initiatives that we have in the flow arts. It gives the women in our community a place where they feel like they belong and can contribute. And quite frankly, we've had problems with misogyny and sexism in the flow arts community for quite some time, and having somebody who works on a specific project like that is a huge step forward in getting rid of that problem. You know, I think a lot about the kinds of things that I want to see more of in the community, and people taking on initiatives that give other people opportunities or other people a voice, I feel like is one of those things that I want to see more of. And one of the downsides of the top 10 list, I do know, is that it centers attention around the people who broadcast themselves, who create content for other people to consume and everything. And sometimes that leads to opportunities for people, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it becomes a measure of, you know, who had the most influential videos in a year, or who had the coolest trick, or what have you. And I think that there's a time and a place for that, but I also think there's a time for honoring the less visible contributions that people make to our community. I don't know how to do that, though. I would love to find a way, and I'm hoping this video is going to be a step towards that. But, yeah. I know that the top 10 list is flawed. Believe me, I am more aware of that than anybody is. and there are things that I would like to see be done better with it. And the good news and bad news is, I know whose door to knock on for that. So, the top 10 list, I think, came out a day ago, if I've got the schedule for this figured out right. And I hope you all enjoy it. I have really enjoyed seeing the names of the people that have popped up on it this year, including, well, I'm not going to say because there's a chance this video might come out before that, but yeah, suffice it to say, there's at least one person on that list that I really think is overdue for some recognition, and I'm so glad that they are being honored this year. But take it with a grain of salt, guys, because it was always intended to be kind of stupid fun, and I want to make sure that people don't take it too terribly seriously, and also that they realize that there's a lot of different ways to contribute to our community, and that making videos and putting out content and everything is only one of them. There's a lot of ways that you can contribute that are important. So keep that in mind, and I will see you guys very soon, yeah? Thank you so much for tuning in, and before I head out, I just want to give a shout out both to the friends of the channel for making the videos on this channel possible. They are Dark Monk, Flow Toys, LMF Props, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi, as well as a shout out to my supporters on Patreon, because they are the ones that make these videos possible, and my entire channel possible for that matter. So if you'd like to sign up to support the videos that I create, please head on over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys soon.